Mankind has created art from the very moment that we sheltered in caves under firelight and sprayed pigment powders onto walls with our hands as stencils. It has been always impulsive, and it's always come from a desire to mark the world in a Faustian kind of expression of dominance over the natural order. And but because in its nature it is chaotic and impulsive, it often requires, a rigorous school or sound mentorship and really aggressive personal drive and vision to accomplish great art and actually produce great art. When you think of Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, these are men who came from amazing schools, who had great mentors, and, well, had the Faustian desire to put their name in the stars. But it all came from the impulsive reaction of, this is mine and I want it. I need to write my name on
Fucking lovely. What an open. What an open to a topic. Fuck.
it.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, which is good for an artist, it's also bad for an artist because I sort of get hung up on sort of technical sort of little details, and I want it to be exactly the way I want it to be. So this figure that I've done, I posed him 3, 4, 5 times, and I'm still not kind of quite happy with the pose. Um, and there's probably a lot of value in just bashing something out, because I've bashed a few things out, and they're all right. But yeah, it might just be good to get it out.
I think there's a book called Just Ship It, which is
Yeah,
like, the more you just push out your art as fast as reasonable and acceptable, the more you'll get the experience behind you of getting good at pushing it out. And then the improvements can come over time rather than being a perfectionist on your early pieces.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, this it's a fight against the vision, and and what's kind of practical, in a way, and trying to find that compromise, order versus chaos.
yeah, I guess that's the nature of art, isn't it? Getting the high ideals in your imagination to meet with the laws of nature and the material that you have in front of you.
Yeah, and your own technical ability.
Yes.
Yeah, but I have to be so fucking disciplined. I really sort of sit there, sit there, take 5 minutes and go, where am I going to start with this? Let's be careful, let's be methodical, let's be slow. Otherwise, I'll just go, nice, done. And the person I'm drawing for might go, oh, wow, nice. You've really got the sort of artistic character of me, or you feel it. But I'm sort of there, as like, yeah, I mean, but it's not showing. I'm not looking at that going, that is, like when you throw a side kick or any kick, it can always land, can't it? And it may land with power, but there is throwing it where it's just like no meat on the bones. It's just like perfectly, your foot comes up, your hips turn over at the right time, and then it comes down onto your opponent's leg. You can make that movement so good. Same with all of these martial art movements, and it feel you know it's hard. I think it's really difficult to do that with art because of its impulsive nature. I think it's quite difficult to sort of really step back and just go, okay, I'm just going to do it carefully and slowly. It's kind of one of the benefits of going to art school and made me see that was when we were doing the life drawing classes. We do this exercise where we do 5 minute sketches. So, they're going to be quick, they're going to be scrappy. It's just get an understanding of the figure, and then we do an hour and a half sketch of one pose. And I could finish all of this hour and a half pose in 30 minutes and be, yeah, I'm happy with that drawing. But the art teacher would be like, no, take your time, go back, knock it all back, get it sort of. And I think
That made me fucking angry. Fuck off. No, I'm not losing my love of art because you want me to keep going on this one thing.
Yeah, I know. And part of me feels like that as well. But when you're talking about life drawing, something that is quite technical in its nature, and I, although I would produce many of these drawings and be quite happy with them myself, I would still recognize that I was not, I was holding myself back on the technical application. And they would always tell me, slow down, take it all in.
I don't. This gives me pushback because
Do you want to
it.
see some sketches? I might be able to even show you what I mean a little bit.
Well, I think that copying is technical because someone creates a great art piece. They do it the best that it's been done. It's done in a visionary way that is beautiful because it touches on something outside of the imagination, something new. And then someone who hasn't came from their same background is expected to break down the technicals of what they did and build it back together in a way that reaches towards the immensity of what they did. That would be very technical because you're not creating your own signature there. You're learning how to approach someone else's great signature. But I'd imagine that, and I don't know, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the greats that became outstanding technically and had their own beautiful signature that's echoed through history to today, they would have found their feet through pushing out, shipping it and shipping it and shipping it, and doing so many pieces that they get their own, they find the connection between their mind and their hand. They find the connection between the ideals and the textures of the paper and the whatever, the chalk or whatever it is, the lead or whatever.
Yeah.
And over pressing out so many things, they fall on the ability to having to put so much into a piece that is so unique that people can't even figure out how to get it the same by technical know-how. Would it be that they're pushing things out and they find their signature versus like hyper fixating on how to technically copy prior people? I don't know. Which one do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I kind of see where you're going, but this is what I'd say though. from a technical perspective, there's probably not much difference between Leonardo and Michelangelo, Da Vinci and Michelangelo. And in fact, they're probably as talented as each other. And in fact, maybe even stylistically, a lot of their work kind of looks the same. That might be a sort of cultural period thing, but they their work stands on its own. You know, people don't mix up Michelangelo and Da Vinci, even though they're artists of the same time, of the same greatness. They are both amazing legends. Maybe Da Vinci has a little bit of an edge over Michelangelo, but not really. Not to anyone that knows art. You know, they see them as you know titans in their own right, yet they're very distinct from each other. And I do think that is the ideas that they're trying to message. Because in a way, when I care about the technical application of the art and how well someone can depict something, because I think ultimately it has nothing to do with that. It's all about the message, really.
Hmm.
It's all about the message.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the sort of okay, that picture I sent to you of the Roman legionary's helmet, did you see in the cheek pads of the armor it had kind of funny texture and holes in it?
Mm. I didn't know. I don't have it familiar enough in my memory.
Well, it's got a funny texture because they've been getting the because he was just putting the bits of clay together and just sticking them on without sort of smoothing them out. I can still see, he was just sort of sticking it there and just like leaving it there in a funny shape, but building all up so you could see the form further back. And it's nice in that piece, but in my mind, I think that's a lower form of art because it's like, why not just smooth out the planes and get them perfect? Why not have the helmet perfect? I don't see what the value is in holding back that thing because even so that picture that I sent you, that's the quality of work that Leonardo or Michelangelo would have put for a sketch. You know, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm sitting in the workshop now. What am I going to make? Oh, let's spend half a day, this morning fiddling around playing basically with clay and thinking of ideas." It looks like a sketch, something that's not finished, not presentable to some degree, even though it's great. And I think that technical application of art and smoothing out those features, removing the sort of lines you don't need in a sketch, making it less scribbly. I think that means that you've got more energy, your eye has more energy to actually take in the subject of the art piece and therefore actually take in the message and not be dazzled by texture or by the remains of the artistic process.
Hmm.
Because in a way, the great sculpture, like the really great sculpture, looks like it's not made of stone. It's like it looks like a pillow that is weightless. But if you kind of like scrappily did that pillow and left a few claw marks from the toothed chisel in it, it would still have the same form, it would still be beautiful, but it kind of breaks that illusion a little bit that it's almost real.
Yeah, the stone, that makes sense of why it couldn't really be scrappy. But
Yeah.
as you saw with that piece, there was a piece where the artist had nothing to do with the way that the clay fell, right?
Say that again.
So that piece with the helmet and the cheek was scrappy and the clay was just pressed there and it just
Yeah.
landed up, right?
Yeah.
The artist had the only thing that the artist did right was say, yes, that is good after it
Yeah.
landed. Like God said when he created something, he says it is good. And to
That's
me,
true.
I think God wants some of these things to land as they do. And poetry is a great example of this, because you can't write poetry without this view. And I'll tell you how that makes sense. If I were to write a poem, you say the idea is the important thing. I start with an idea, and then I start with a sentence that begins the idea. So one line.
Yep.
And so I got an idea. Let me make a poem about what happened the other night when I met that girl. Let me write a poem about how I felt when I was working in that industry. Let me write a poem about this. And you start with the most like the most base part of the poem as the first line. And then, and you say something that clashes and clangs. With something with a tempo, something with a beat. You can't, you the beat is necessary, the topic is necessary, and whatever it is that matches those words, you can't do anything but what God finds that meets those two criteria. And then the next is even more specific, because you have to get the tempo, you have to get the second line of the subject, and it has to end with the right beat. The third line is, so if it rhymes with blue, then the next one has to rhyme with something, well, what was the poem? And blue, and then she knew, and this type of thing. It has to fit in, and it may not be perfect, it may not, but sometimes it is, and God can be the most important factor of choosing. Okay, I gave him this experience. I've gave him this feeling. I've gave him this desire to write poetry. I've gave the English language this structure of flow. I've gave him all of these words that rhyme with blue. And now the poetry writes itself by his
Mm.
artistic preference and the constraints and order of nature. Aside from that, you go and you produce and you take the time to push out the poem, and then when it's done, it's done. It's pressed, it's shipped. And then the next time, you are a little bit more artistic on the ideas. You have a better vocabulary. You have a better attunement with the connection between the reality you live in and the English language. And you can improve by continuously shipping these poems that you don't write, but are written by nature. They're written by the English language. They're written by God inspiring the idea and the event, and then you push out however the clay falls.
Mm. Yeah.
It's funny that the things that stone, carving stone, like you can tell me so much about how carving stone informs, your art, and poetry has such a different way of informing it as well. And it's what an amazing creation God has made. It is good. The way He's made it is so good.
That's fucking amazing, mate. Yeah, I'm speechless. I've got to ponder on that. That's really nice. Thank you for that. May
Thank
have
you.
even needed to hear that. Mm.
The way the clay lands, I mean,
Yeah.
the same way that in The Man Who Would Be King, the pivotal moment where they open his shirt up to see if he can be stabbed and if he's really a god and if he can be killed, and then they see the eye on his chest and that came from the start, and all of the things fell into place. I think Rudyard Kipling wrote that story because he had this idea of God playing us as characters. The world is a stage, as Shakespeare said. And I think that when that artist put that piece of clay, pressed that clay onto the face, and it landed perfect as a cheek, it was already a cheek. That was God doing that, even when He made the thumbs and when He made the clay, and when He made everything that lay out before that. For that moment, it could come okay. I wonder if that's something that the schools will, kick out of you in a way. You know, by forcing you to fall short of the greats by trying to mimic what was half done by them and half done by God.
Yeah, and how the clay falls, that's got to be a saying. That's amazing. Um, pray for clay. So basically, when I'm having problems with art, it's time to pray. Yeah, yeah, okay. Um,
I think it's just about accepting it sometimes,
yeah,
just say, I didn't even
yeah,
touch that bit of clay that went on his cheek. It was good. And it was good.
and it was good. Yeah, and it was good.
He
Yeah,
made the birds and the fish in the sea, and it was good,
and it was good. Yeah, yeah.
Have you heard of the winner effect?
I think so. But
It's
go
this
on.
idea that when you stack wins, small wins, you're more likely to start stacking big
Yeah,
wins, and you get an upward spiral
yeah,
of success and confidence, success breeding success, confidence breeding confidence.
yeah.
And I think that it's a pretty profound thing with like dating women. When you get like you feel very good about how you're doing with girls and that type of thing, and then other girls see you looking confident and get interested in you, and then you feel like you're gonna, you know, they're gonna like you and it's gonna go well, and so you're not worried, and then it does go well. Whereas the opposite cycle would be like, you know, you've been rejected, so you think you'll be rejected again, and then they look at you and you look scared, and then you get rejected, this type of thing, and it's like there's a downward spiral and an upward spiral. And I think that it's been recorded in lobsters as well. It's like a talking point of Peterson.
Yes, yes.
It's the lobster that wins its fights, gets confidence and breeds, and then the lobster that just loses one single fight then loses all of its fights because its dopamine's kicked and things like that. I think this is true for art as well. And I
Yeah.
think that the process of creating art should have within it an idea of trying to boost up your winner effects. You
Mm,
on projects that are going to dishearten you too early. You don't think, all right, it's day one of sketching. I'm going to sketch the greatest sketch by the greatest guy and try and climb to the same heights by overcomplicating things with technical ability. You just try and do a Pepe. You just try to express a simple idea in simple forms and get it to a point where it's just good enough where you're happy to move on,
yeah,
and with those wins, you'll learn something every single time about something to do with the sketching and become more and more refined. And not only that, but you'll have a body of work building up, however 2-bit it may be, behind you, that you're standing on top of as a greater artist who did those things a long time ago. I think that's probably got to be an important thing for a young artist to try to cultivate, and it's probably something that the universities get absolutely backwards.
yeah, yeah,
Try and do it out of depth, and then scrutinize and force into places that you don't want to be for too long. How can you get the winner effect there? How can you get proud there? Do you know what I mean?
yeah. No, no, I know exactly what you mean. And in a way that goes straight to why I hate some of those art pieces.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That is um, that has got to be a completely crushing way of doing it for an artist. It's just can't be the way to make a great. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. Because in a way, yeah, you want to wake up and go, I'm going to make a postcard, and then just make a postcard, and it's a postcard,
Yep.
and you've got a postcard. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Out of love, straight love from the pencil,
Yeah,
and then you're happy at the end because you didn't have something too high in mind,
yeah.
and it'll have character in it, you know, and that can be love for its own reasons. And then over time, you'll make a piece that has influences of all of the prior pieces included within it. And it'll be so complex and profound and genius and advanced that people don't even know how you could do something like that, because they haven't done all of the many pieces of love that you've done before that, and pieces of learning that you've done before that, that go into creating something completely original. And you'll probably meet the same techniques and tactics and understandings that those greats did from a different angle, and understand it with a new level of clarity, rather than trying to understand something too technical too early and just not really fucking getting it, because you've not got to that point where you've done enough sketches to meet the problems that they're wrestling with. I don't understand the difference between iambic tetrameter and iambic pentameter in Shakespeare's poetry. It's two different poem structures. I don't know the difference yet, but maybe one day, if I write enough poems, it'll become obvious.
Yeah.
2-bit poems. One day, I'll understand those iambic pentameter and iambic tetrameter, and not only that, but I'll be able to write something that approximates high levels of poetic genius due to all of the poems that have been written, the 2-bit poems that have been written beforehand, to come to the understandings of the high level intricate techniques far down the line. Not year one university, without without pressing out enough stuff like that. That's probably what the greats learned from the masters that they apprenticed under. Just keep sketching, just keep sketching. This type of thing. Who knows? Maybe there was exercise in it. Maybe there was like sort of multi-discipline sort of parallax of looking between different ideas, and time in beauty and nature and philosophy and this type of thing, and then just pressing them out. I wonder if that's the way some of these greats actually learn, rather than
Yeah.
the way that they over technicalize and then over scrutinize.
In a way, I think your perspective could be really helpful for me. Actually, I like. I'm going to try and apply a bit of that actually.